Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How are you today? Today, I'm going to take you through division of number bases. Okay, and my goal is to simplify this process to make it look as simple as possible because I've seen a number of students struggle with how to operate division of number bases. Okay, so before we do that, I'm going to take you through what we call the division algorithm, how division works, and the inverse relationship that exists between division and subtraction. So we're going to realize that repeated subtraction is division. Okay, so without much ado, I'll take you straight into the discussion. So I'm going to stop my video and share my widescreen with you. So let me share my widescreen and we will start the discussion on that. Okay, so nice. So right here, we start the discussion. So let me say this is division of number bases. Okay. Now, so like I said, I'll take you through what we call the division algorithm, because you have to get that basis before we can move ahead. Okay. Now, if you have A over B, so that means that B divides A. If you want to put this in the long division system, you have B out, and then you have A right there. Now, this number is what we call a divisor, right? So the number that divides is called the divisor, and we have A as our dividend. Is that okay? Now, the result that comes out will be put here. And that is this guy, we call this guy the quotient. Okay, and finally, if this leaves a remainder, I'll call the remainder an R, and I'll give you an example of that. So the remainder is going to be there. Now, the division algorithm works this way, so that at the end of the day, your A will be equal to your B times your Q plus your R, and that will give you the value of the A, and that is how the division algorithm works. Okay, so let me give you an example of that, how that works. Okay, the division algorithm works. So I'm going to take regular numbers, just base 10 numbers, and then we'll go through that, and then you realize that this is really valid. So I'm going to take an example. So I'm going to do 232 divided by 5. Now, when you do this, what do you mean when you do 232 divided by 5? What this means is that you want to know how many groups of 5 are there in what? 232. So you put your 5 out right there, and then you have 2, 3, 2. So this is the regular long division method for a base 10. So you ask yourself how many. So you take the first number and you realize that wouldn't work. So 5 goes into 2. Okay, you realize that wouldn't. You say it wouldn't work. So you add 3. So you do 5 goes into 23. How many groups of 5 are there in 23? And that is 4 groups. Now 4 by 5 gives you 20. Now you subtract, okay? And this gives you 3, and then you pull this down and you have 32. Is that okay? Now you ask yourself, how many groups of 5 are there in 32? And you have 6 groups, okay? So 6 by 30, 6 by 5 gives you 30. And then you subtract, and this leaves a remainder of 2. So this is the stopping criteria. When you have your remainder or the number here less than the divisor, you stop. So you say that 5 can divide 232 46 times and leaves a remainder of what? Of 2. So you realize that, so now if you want to get back 232 as a check, you're going to do 46 times 5 plus the remainder. Okay, and the remainder right there is what? Is 2. So if you do that, so this is multiplication, you realize that you're going to get 232, okay, on both ends. And that is what we call the division algorithm. Okay, that is how the division algorithm works. And we're going to apply the division algorithm to do our division of number bases. Okay, sweet. So let's get into it. So I'm going to take you through 4 different examples of using base 5. Okay, so base 5 works like any other base, and then I'll take you, finally I will let you know how to deal with a binary base. Okay, binary bases work differently. Okay, so first of all, let's start with these smaller numbers. So if I have 4 base 5, okay, so example number 1, dividing 22 base 5. Okay, we want to know how many groups of 4 are in 22 using base 5. All right, but to know division very well, you have to be conversant with your subtraction of number bases. So here, we will ask ourselves now, we want to know how many groups. So we will do repeated subtractions. So I will do 22 minus 4. So we want to know how many groups of that are there. And this is in base 5. Now we are subtracting in base 5. Now, because this has a base of 5, any number we borrow will be a 5. Is that okay? So if you borrow 1 from here, that'll be carried as a 5. So I'll be left with 1. And so I'll be 5 plus 2. So I'll have a 7 there. So this is 3, and I have 1 right there. Because we are subtracting in base 5, any number we borrow will be a 5. Okay, nice. Now, so I will do, because I did just 1 times a base of 5. Okay, I just multiply that by 1. Okay, so I'll go ahead and now I'll ask myself, how many groups of 4 are there in 13? Okay, so then I'll subtract again, repeated addition. I'll subtract 4 again, and still we are subtracting in base 5. Okay, so 4 from 3, so I have to borrow 1 from there. So this will be left with a 0. So because we are subtracting in base 5, this becomes what? An 8. And I have 4 right there. So what did I do here? I did 1 multiplied by 4 is 5. I'm just going to subtract 4 continuously until I have no remainder, or the remainder is less than the divisor. Okay, good. So right here, I'll go further. So now I'll then subtract 4 again. I'll keep subtracting 4. Okay, so I still did 1 times that. So now I have a 0 right there. Is that okay? So now what I'm going to do, my answer is now going to be the number of times. So 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, and this is 3. And now because we are dealing with the base 5, this becomes, so my answer, the answer is now 3 base 5. Okay, so that is the result for number 1. Is that okay? Because our goal was to find how many groups of 4 are there in 22 base 5. Okay, and we have 3 groups of that. Is that okay? Sweet. Let's take some more example. multiply 5 point. So number 2, I want to know how many groups of this are there in 32. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We'll keep subtracting 4. Okay, and these numbers that we are dealing with are smaller, so we can keep subtracting 4. Okay, to make it easier. But if we have bigger numbers, we will do multiples of the number of the divisor. So we will subtract 4. And then we have, so that means I did 1 by 4 to the 5. Okay, so because we are subtracting in base 5, let me still do that. So if I borrow that, this becomes what? 7. Is that okay? So 7 minus 4 is 3, right? And then I have my 2 right there. I'll subtract 4 again. And this time I still did 1 by 4 to the 5. Okay, now we will borrow 1 from there, and because we are subtracting in base 5, this becomes 8. Okay, so 8 minus 4 is 4, and then I have 1 right there. Okay, good. We can go further. We'll still subtract 4 again because we want to know how many groups of 4 are there. And finally, we realize that, so this is going to be a 0 right there. Okay, and then I have my 1 down here. We can still subtract 4 because this number is bigger than the divisor, so we then take away 4. And we are going to have, so this, okay, and then we have 5 right there because we are subtracting in base 5, and then I have a remainder of 1. So this is now my stopping criteria, right? So because this number is less than the divisor. So now our answer then becomes 1 plus 1, okay, plus 1. And don't forget that we did here too, we did that multiple of that, okay, which is 4, base 5, and a remainder of 1, base 5. And that is my answer for that. So really, if you check, you could have done multiples of 4, okay, but you just want to go systematically. So you want to know how many groups of 4 are there. So you have to keep subtracting 4, okay, until you get to the point where the number here is either a 0 or a number less than the divisor, okay, and that is your answer for number 2. So we are going to take bigger numbers, and this time you're going to deal with multiples, okay, multiples of the number. So let's go to the third example where I look at 4 to the 5, okay, divided by 1, 4, 3, base 5. Okay, good. Okay, so you ask yourself how many groups. So if you want to go, this number is bigger, 143. So if you just want to go subtracting 4 the whole time, it's going to take us longer. You can get the answer doing that, but it will take us a long time. So therefore, we are just going to do multiples of that. So here, I'm just going to do 4 by 10, okay? So now 4 by 10 gives me 40. So what I really did here was to do 10 by 4 to the 5. Is that okay? And then I'll subtract, just so that I get smaller numbers. So this should actually be there. So let me erase that. So this should be 4 and 0, okay? Now, so 3 minus 0, I have my 3 right there, okay? And then 4 minus 4 gives me a 0, and then I have that, okay? Now, we can still do a multiple of 10. A multiple of what? 10. So I'm going to subtract 40 again. So 3 minus 0, I have 3 right there, okay? and then 0 minus 4. Okay, what do we have for that? So because we have to borrow 1 from there and we are subtracting in base 5, so this becomes 5, and 5 minus 4 gives me 1. Is that okay? So at this point, you realize that this is 13, so the number has come down. So now I can just begin subtracting 4. So I can do 1 by 4 to the 5, and that is what I did. Okay, now we subtract, and this becomes 8 right there, and that becomes what? 4. Is that okay? So from here, this number is lesser, so I can now do again 4. Okay, so another 1, 4 base 5. And this time I have a 0, so I can have now converged. I've finished my division. So now if I want to know my answer, I have to put these numbers. I have to add these multiples. Okay, so my answer is now going to be so 10 plus that, 10. So this is 22, and that is 22 base 5. So that is my answer. Okay, so it depends on you. If you want to converge faster, you can use larger multiples. Okay, so if you wanted to keep subtracting 4 because you wanted to know division, basically is finding the number of how many groups of 4 are there in the number 143 base 5. So you can keep subtracting 4. Okay, and that would have taken you longer, but you want to go quicker. So because the number is bigger, we did multiples of the number. Is that okay? And that took us right there. So let's look at number 4. So I have 23 base 5, and that is divided 13135. Okay, so here this number is also bigger. Okay, what happened to my screen? This is an equally bigger number, so we have to use multiples of the number. So for convenience, let me clear the screen, and I'll rewrite that so that we have more space. Okay, so I'll take this number and I'll take a multiple of the number of the divisor, right? So if I do 23 base 5 by 10, that gives me 230, okay, base 5, okay? So I will then do 10 by 23 base 5. Now I'll subtract. Is that okay? So 3 minus 0, so I have my 3 right there. And 1 minus 3, because we're subtracting in base 2, base 5, this becomes what? 6. Right there. And 6 minus 3 is what? Is still 3. Okay. Now 2 minus 2 gives me a 0, and I have that. Right? This is still bigger, so I can still subtract 230, a multiple of the divisor, which is 10 by 235. Okay. And I'll keep subtracting. So I have 3 right there, and 3 minus 3 is a 0. I'll borrow 1 from there. This is a 5. 5 minus 2 is 3. Okay, nice. It's still bigger, right? So I can still do a multiple of 23 base 5, which is 230. So I did 10 by 235. Subtract. And now I have 3 minus 0 is 3. 0 minus 3, so I have to borrow 1 from there. This becomes 5. Okay, so I'm left with 2 right there. 5 minus 3 is what? Is 2. Is that right? And 2 minus 2 is 0. So now, what can I do from here? I have 23, so I just need to subtract 23. So I just did 1 by what? 23 base 5. Okay, and now I have my 0. 0 right there. So after subtracting. So my answer would be to put these factors together, the number of times. So 10 plus 10 plus 10, 30 plus 1. So my answer right here is 31 base 5. Okay, sweet. And that is my answer for that. Okay, so basically, this is how you do the division of number bases. Okay, so if you want to do for 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, all these will follow the same process. Okay, and that is how you do division of number bases. Okay, other than 2. Now let's now look at binary division of number bases. Binary division of number bases. So for binary, that means we are looking at what? Base 2. And binary division of number bases, or base 2 division, basically. Okay, base 2 division works differently. Okay, so now if I have 11 to the base 2, and then I have 1, 0, 0, 1 base 2 to subtract, what do I do? First of all, you check what actually is the value. So if you want to change 11 base 2 to a base 10, you have to do 1 by 2, okay, plus 1 by 2, right? This is 0, 1, so I have 2 plus 1. So really, this is a 3. So 11 base 2 is 3. Now I have 1, 1, 0, 0, 1. Now if I take the first number, what is the value of that? Okay, so you realize that that wouldn't work. So that number, this, if I just take this is less than 3. So I add the second number, and that value will also be less than 3. So if I do 10 base 2, 1, 0 base 2, if I change that, okay, that is going to give me a 2, which is less. But if I take 1, 0, 0, so 1, 0, 0, if I want to change 1, 0, 0 base 2 to a base 10, I'm going to have 1 by 2 plus 0 by 2 plus 0 by 2, 0, 1, and 2. So I have 4. Okay, I have a 0. Okay, and I have a 0. So this is 4. Now, 11 base 2 is less than 4, which is 1, 0, 0. So 11 base 2 can now divide 1, 0, 0 base 2. Okay, so, and that would divide that once. So I'll subtract 11 base 2 out. Is that okay? So I have that right there, and that divided that once. Can divide that once. So 1 times that gives me that. Now I can subtract. We are subtracting in base 2, right? So we are going to do that 0 minus 1, okay? And that is what? So we actually have to borrow. So now we borrow 1 from there. So we have 2 there. We have to move that. So we'll be left with 1 out there. And then we have 2. So 2 minus 1 gives you what? 1. Okay, we have zeros all here. So now we have to drop down this number. So we have 11 out there. We subtract that. And we have, we still have what? 1 out here. Okay, and we have a 0, 0. So that is your answer. So your answer is now 1, 1 base 2. Is that okay? So 11 base 2, there are 11, 1, 1, 2 base 2 groups of that in this number. Is that okay? So you just wanted to know how many groups of 1, 1 base 2 are there in 1, 0, 0, 1 base 2. And there are 11 groups, 1, 1, 2. of that. Okay, nice. Let me take another example of that. So we want to look at another example, perhaps the last one. Okay, so number 2. So you want to do number 2. So 1 base 2 dividing 1 0 0 1 0 2. Okay. So just like we did here, you have to take the first 3 digits because that will give you a number greater, right, than 1 base 2. So you subtract 11 out there, 1 1. Okay, and that is it divides that once. So 1 times that, okay, that gives you that. Now you subtract, and you realize that is still going to give you 1. Okay, and then you drop that right there. Now this is because you wanted to do that, so you have to borrow from here 1, and this becomes 2, but you're going to move that here, so I'll be left with 1 there, and I'll be left with 2. So 2 minus that gives you 1, and then we drop down that. Okay, nice. Now we now do that. Okay, 11 1 base 2 can divide that again once. Okay, so that is 11. Okay, and then this should give you a 0, but don't forget we have that there. So we pull down that 0, and this number divided by that should give you what? A 0. 0 times that gives you what? A 0. And finally, you have 0 0. Okay, so your answer to this is 110 base 2, and that simplifies that. So for base 2, it works a little differently. You really have to take your time, okay, to get that through. Okay, so what we did, basically, to summarize, repeated subtraction is division. So when you are dividing, basically what you're doing is you're asking yourself how many groups of the divisor are there in the dividend. Is that okay? And that should be your result. If you want to converge faster, use a scale factor, okay, to multiply the divisor and keep subtracting until you get a number or a remainder that is 0 or less than the divisor, and that simplifies your division of number bases. Okay, on this note, I want to thank you very much, and let me know if you have any questions. Okay, so have a good day. Thank you. Bye.